It's time for another Trench Crusade unit spotlight, this time for He Who Sees All, the Observer. When the need is great, the Synod of Strategic Prophecy sends observers to support the war effort. This order of warrior monks lives a life of absolute solitude, sharpening their minds and bodies, making of themselves living weapons in the hands of God. The observers diligently practice the recitation of the words of God, granting them the power to issue commands to anyone they address, friend or foe. The special metal of their helmet allows them to replicate the holy word as closely as it is possible, compelling any creature in creation to obey them momentarily. The Observer is a mercenary that can be hired by the new Antioch and Trench Pilgrim warbands. It costs 3 glory, and you're limited to 1 per warband. The Observer is a pretty quick unit. It has 8-inch standard movement, and it has +1 dice to ranged, and +2 dice to melee modifiers, and has a base size of 32mm. Just like other mercenaries, the Observer can't have its equipment modified in any way, but it actually has a decent smorgasbord of some offerings. The Observer has some standard armor, which gives it -1 armor rating, and its helmet counts as both a combat helmet and a gas mask to protect against shrapnel and gas. It also has a trench polearm, which helps stop charging units from being as effective, and a medikit. The Observer has a whole host of abilities, making it a very versatile and dynamic unit. We see first that it has lightning speed and temporal fugue. Lightning speed allows the Observer to make 2 melee attacks instead of 1, and temporal fugue makes it so all attacks against the Observer suffer -1 dice to hit. Even though the Observer doesn't have the flashiest equipment, these 2 abilities make it a real good fighter. Next, let's take a look at some unique abilities. First is the Voice of God. The Observer can target any model, friend or foe, that is yet to be activated this turn, and it can attempt a risky action. If it succeeds, the Observer's turn ends, and the model it targeted will immediately begin its activation. Even though the wording in the lore and the text of the ability may make it seem like the Observer gets to control the unit, even if it's a foe, it doesn't. It just makes it activate. And now we come to the Observer's last ability that backs up the Voice of God and any other action, the Eye of God. Whenever the Observer fails any action, you're allowed to re-roll the action. If any of the dice in the re-roll gives a 1 though, the Observer is knocked down and gets a blood marker. This rule has a lot of interpretation available to it, but the house rules that I've mainly been using for it to try to keep it fair is that since the Eye of God itself is not an action, you cannot re-roll the Eye of God attempt multiple times, 1 re-roll per action. And you are able to re-roll multiple times in an activation for different actions that fail, if you want to risk that psychic backlash. And the last little house rule that I've been using is that risky actions are allowed to be re-rolled before it ends the activation. Do you like using the Observer for its fast movement, quick attacks, and high dodge rate? Or do you prefer to manipulate the enemies and allies with the Voice of God? Let me know in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to check out the next Trench Crusade unit spotlights as they're done.